back to Genesis 45 and 46, and it's still dealing with family dynamics. And I think Donnie, Greg, and Carrie, they haven't left the church. Uh, there's a bird in the back, and everybody was wondering how the bird got in there. And I told him, I said, well, maybe that was Pastor coming back to check on us. When I saw the bird, uh, I was quickly reminded of when a person very dear to me, uh, we were at his grave site, and you know, the service is quite brief, but as they were lowering him, all of his fraternity brothers, we were there, and there was a bird perched on a branch, and I'm not joking. The entire time we were out there, the bird said nothing. But as we were saying our goodbyes, the bird began to just chirp. And it moved all, it was 5 of us that rode together. For the first, I don't know, 10 miles or so, nobody said anything. I'm telling you, saints, that was something. That was something. And when I went in the back, and my cousin Nellie said, Brad, there's a bird back here. I said, a bird? And my mind immediately shot back to that. You know, some would say it was a coincidence, but that bird right on cue just started chirping. And we took it that Kenneth was all right. We took it that he was all right. And he was a young man, you know. Yah uses everything in creation how he wants it to. And it's remarkable. I mean, his timing is perfect. Let's get into the lesson. Um, were y'all successful? Okay. I think I said, don't y'all hurt him, encourage him. Ain't nobody gonna hurt that bird. And I knew they wouldn't, but it's kind of tricky. Now, by quick review, remember Joseph uh, has sent back for his father and his brothers, and he said, bring everything back when you come. And I'll tell you, I had a 10-minute snippet that I wanted to share because it's dealing with things that are about to come about But I'm not going to do that. I may do it once we stop streaming. But we'll see. We'll, as church folk like to say, we'll see how the Holy Ghost is moving. Uh, and in 46 and 1, Genesis 46 and 1, it says, Israel took everything he owned with him on his journey. He arrived at Beersheba and offered sacrifices to the God of his father, Isaac. And of course, we know that he told him, hey, don't worry about it. You're going down to Egypt and do so. And you're going to see some things that'll really bless you. But don't worry, we're not going to leave your remains there. And a lot of times when you're going through things in a family, there are good days, there are bad days, there are days where you really feel like a cohesive unit and you feel that everyone has everyone's best interest. And then there are other days where little things seem to get magnified and sometimes you're sniping at one another and you're saying things that aren't so kind or not so pleasant to one another. And sometimes we remember maybe old situations. And, you know, sometimes you begin to look at the people that are in your bloodline, in your family, and some days you feel like we're blood, and some days you feel like, are we blood? Well, all of this was going on not only in Joseph's situation, but throughout the land. See, his situation is highlighted, but these type of interactions go on all over everywhere. In fact, it goes on in the people that are represented here. And, you know, you hear me talk a lot of times about quality of life, quality of life, quality of life. Well, Jacob's quality of life was about to greatly improve. But keep in mind, folks, we got to keep this in mind. This was only year 2 of a 7-year famine. Year 2, 5 more potentially tough years to go. Why am I saying that? Because sometimes we get relief, we get a reprieve. Our quality of life improves almost immensely, as if almost overnight. And yes, we're happy, particularly when you've come out of an ordeal. And we feel like, you know, Yah is truly with us. It's all good in the camp. We're back to living large. And all of that is true. He's not an Indian giver. And I shouldn't say that because that was forgive me. That's the wrong thing to say. What I meant to say and what I meant to give you the impression of, he's not someone that will bless you and then pull it back. Have you ever had somebody give you something and then they want to borrow it and you don't get it back, or by the time you get it back, it looks nothing like when they presented it to you? And I'll let you in on a secret, and I think I did this before. When you go to return something and they tell you, oh, that's all right, you keep it, you just so enjoyed it, what they're really saying is you jacked this thing up some kind of bad. That's what they're really telling you. Now, what you should do in that situation, listen to me, what we should do in that situation, particularly when we know it wasn't nearly as beat up when we return it, get them another one. Give a listen. I'm going to read it out of a translation that you're all familiar with. In fact, many of you know this already, but it says, "And Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the vision of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here I am. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee." Yah is telling him this. "I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will surely bring thee up again, and Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes." And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob, their father, and their little ones, and their wives in wagons, which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. Now, usually when we hear Pharaoh, we think, a bad ruler, a bad king, because Pharaoh is just a title. That wasn't his name. His name, in fact, they've got some what we call gospel songs, and they say, "Old Pharaoh, tell old Pharaoh this." Well, it's just, that's his title. Yeah, his name ain't Pharaoh. "And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, dark land, and came into Egypt," another dark land, "Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt." And these are the names, and then they go ahead and they start naming. I'm going to skip down a little bit. And named all his sons. And then it says in 20, "And Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, and the sons of Benjamin," and then he named some of them, and there's a reason they do all of this, because they're wanting you to follow the bloodline. See, the way we've been taught is that it's almost as if you go to the same church, you could be perceived as being of the same bloodline. And I'm going to respectfully say you might want to do a little more research about that from the way the Most High looks at things, not the way society and theologians and people that think they know a lot would say. Bloodline is very, very, very important to the Most High. And he names names for a reason. And that still holds true today. In 28, "And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came in the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot and went up to meet Israel his father to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And I know, I keep going back and forth, but see, there's a lot going on. Remember when his sons went back and they said, no, Joseph is alive. And Joseph, before they left, as they were preparing to leave, he said something key, and a lot of times we miss that. He said, please don't quarrel among yourselves. See, he remembered some of the characteristics of his brothers because he had some of the same characteristics in him because it was in their blood. Don't argue among yourselves. Stay with me. And Joseph said unto his brothers, and unto his father's house, I will go up and I will show Pharaoh and say unto him, my brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me. And the men are shepherds for their trade that have been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall come to pass when Pharaoh shall call you and say, Pharaoh shall call you and say, what is your occupation? What is your occupation? What is your occupation? That's key. That's not there for no reason. And it still applies today. That ye shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. In other words, they don't live like that. The Egyptians don't live like that. Let me go to another translation in 47. Give an ear. Then Joseph went in and told Pharaoh, my father and brothers have come from the land of Canaan with their flocks, livestock, and all their possessions. Right now, they are in the land of Goshen. And of course, we know Goshen was where they wanted to be anyway. But see, Joseph is, not only is he running things, but Joseph is also setting up the stage. Because remember now, keep in mind, this is only year 2. 5 more years of challenges, famine, however you want to call it, lack, are still on the horizon. But they're rejoicing and everybody's happy because why? They came out of a situation that was more destitute. And I mean, they remember the Beverly Hillbillies? Oh, Jed, Jed's a millionaire. Ken folks said, Jed, move away from there. Said, California is the place you ought to be. So they loaded up the truck and moved. Yeah, but that's what Jacob did. They loaded up everything. Pharaoh sent chariots, wagons, everything. Hey, bring everything. The dog, the cat, leave the roaches. But, folks, they pull up state. They pull up their roots, and they were going to be replanted in Goshen. And see, sometime in life, sometimes we got to move. Now, we might get the opportunity to come back, but sometimes we got to move. Are we ready to move? You know, we like to say, man, I follow God explicitly. But do we only hear the things or we understand the things that might seem pleasing to us? But if we got a situation, if the situation's dire enough and somebody say, hey man, I'm gonna send for you, get everything you got and come on. A couple of things begin to happen. Say, well, wait a minute, hold it. I've set up a decent living for myself here. But sometimes things get kind of lean around here. And so, are we willing to pull up the cat, the dog, and everything and move? Particularly when we know it's from the Most High, not because your best buddy. I remember when the company that my dad was working for, when that all of that controversy came out about a certain item, and I called him. I said, "Hey, Pop, I had a good quality of life somewhere else," and I said, "Come on, I'll get y'all a house few doors down." What you talking about? I'd have retired. Oh. See, so what I'm saying, sometimes I heard about that on the news and I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, this is terrible, So all the time, make sure it's coming from the right source. When somebody's asking you to pick up and move everything. That's harder to do than we might think. Now, all of this is going on. But, of course, the drawing card was they told Jacob that Joseph was alive. But the brothers also had in their heart and mind on the way back, man, we know what we told him. And I might imagine, because I don't know, I didn't read it in the scriptures, but you know how sometimes, because I got brothers, when you got to face the music, you start, well, it was your idea. Well, I didn't tell him. You actually said it. See, and that's how a quarrel can start. Yeah, but at first, I was the one that said, we shouldn't do that. But y'all overrode me. Because one of the brothers, before they was going to put him down in that pit, one of them did kind of speak up, but I forget, he kind of got overruled, All right. But and then I wonder, did they ever really, when they told him, did they just tell him, or did they say, well, Dad, and that's when they'll say, we told you a fib, See, all of that's part of this going on. Plus, where they were in Canaan, it was drying up. So they were coming out of a bad situation. The economy was bad there. How's our economy? Even in a bad economy, some people are doing okay. But the majority of us are having a hard time. And I said it that way for a reason, because see, from where I sit, everybody look like they doing just fine. But folks, looks can be deceiving. And all of that is in here too. Let me keep reading before y'all throw me out. Mm, 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 mm. My father and my brothers have come down from the land of Canaan with their flocks and livestock and all their possessions right now. They're in the land of Goshen. He took 5 of his brothers and presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" They answered Pharaoh, I'm in 47. They answered Pharaoh, "Your servants are shepherds, both we and our ancestors." See, so notice now when they went before the king or the ruler or the head person in charge, they said what their occupation was. And they said, "We've done this from our youth until now, and even our ancestors." In other words, yes, he was presenting his 5 brothers, but his 5 brothers were presenting themselves and all that was connected to them, their bloodline. Because see, he wasn't just looking out for his brothers whom he loved, who kind of done some stuff to him, but he played a part in that too. He wasn't totally a good guy, totally. And I'm not throwing shade. He's a better man than I am. But I'm trying to get us to see, again, these are people. These are people. You know, a lot of times when we read the scriptures, we kind of think we see everybody with a super C on their chest, super Christian. And really, they weren't Christians. And, you know, I'm not, again, trying to start a fight. What is your occupation? They answered, "Your servants are shepherds, both we and our ancestors," and added, "We have come to live in the land because in the land of Canaan there is no place to pasture your servants' flocks. The famine is so severe there." Man, it's tough there. Year 2. So in the midst of a tough situation, Joseph says, "Hey, come up where I'm staying. Bring Dad. Get your wives, get the dog, get everybody. Y'all come on up. Where I am is at least better than this." And he wasn't saying that in a braggadocious fashion. And see, sometimes families, sometimes we can be that way with our siblings, and we can be that way with our cousins. See, there's sibling rivalry. There can be cousin rivalry too. Aunt and uncle rivalry. Brad, you see all of that in Joseph? Yes, I do. And just like it was then, it's like that today, folks. But how are we going to be? How are we going to be when we're faced with that situation? And again, now, I'm not saying, be a doormat. I'm not saying that. But when times get tight, you're looking for somebody to show that we are blood. Because you're going to find out, listen, even your best friends, they got their own situation. Man, how you see all that in this? It's in there. Now remember, times were bad in Canaan. Their quality of life, in fact, that's why they went to Egypt, to get some victuals. And that gave Joseph the opportunity. Oh, okay. And see, all of those interactions that went on, he recognized his brothers. They didn't recognize him. But he remembered. And remember when he couldn't hold himself back? He forgave them, but he did something very human. He reminded them of the stuff they did to him first. And we might say, well, that wasn't very spiritual. Oh, he was human. That's how brothers are. That might be how sisters are. I don't know. I'm going to keep reading. Pharaoh said to Joseph, your father and your brothers have come to you, and the land of Egypt lies before you. Have your father and brothers live on the best property in the country. They moving on up. Let them live in the land of Goshen. See, that's what Joseph wanted the whole time. See, he had already rehearsed that with his brothers. See, Pharaoh was in charge, but Joseph was running things. See, Yah is in charge, but some of us need to get off our duff and start running things as you're asked. There's an order. You knew I was going to stick that in there somewhere. There's an order. Don't care how skilled you are. When you act out of turn, you create a disaster. Follow order. Follow Yah's order. All that in there? Yes, it is. Have your father and your brothers live on the best property in the country. Let them live in the land of Goshen. Moreover, if you know that some of them are particularly competent, put them in charge of my livestock. Now he letting them delegate, which he was already doing. See, sometimes, saints, we don't have to always be, quote unquote, calling the shots. We don't have to always be calling the shots. But always be willing to be used as he wants to use us, not what we like to do. There's a difference. Am I saying you'll have no success? No, I'm not saying that. But you won't have his kind of success doing only what you like to do, because perhaps what you like to do, he may have someone else in mind. He made more than one beautiful woman. He made more than one handsome man. So why do we start tripping? All of that in here? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Moreover, if you know that some of them are particularly competent, put them in charge of my livestock. Joseph then brought in Jacob, his father, and presented him to Pharaoh. And I would imagine Joseph was so proud because his family was down and out. And I don't mean that he was proud in a daddy, I done good type thing. No, he remembered all of the challenges that he had faced, and he realized that the Most High had put him in a position that he could help his family, and not only help his family, but help the multitude. See, sometimes instead of saying little sharp things about people that are, you think, walking in arrogance, they're walking in confidence in the Most High. Some of us, unlearned, can't tell the difference. Joseph brought in his father and presented him to Pharaoh. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked Jacob, "How old are you?" And Jacob replied, "The time of my stay on earth has been 130 years. They have been few and difficult, fewer than the years my ancestors lived." So he knew, Methuselah and all of them, they lived a much longer time. But see, listen, when his sons gave him that false report about what had happened to their brother, a little bit of him died. And then when they came back and said, this guy, who they didn't know it was Joseph, but this guy that's calling things down in Egypt, he wants us to bring Benjamin. What? And then again, Jacob's like, wait a minute, how did he know about Benjamin? Because sometimes, saints, we sing like a canary. We talk, too much. I don't mean we talk too much. Sometimes we give up too much vital information. See, sometimes some things you need to keep to yourself. And it's not that you're being deceptive, but I know even in business, you don't tell everything. Do you know sometimes before a person will let you know about a merger or something, they'll get you to sign a non-disclosure? In other words, you sign that thing, that means you won't discuss that with anybody else. And so some people might get offended. I'm not signing nothing. You don't put a thing over my mouth. Only the Lord tell me what to say. Come on, folks. Stop that. That's not the right attitude. That's not the right spirit even. Sometimes, folks, we as a people have told the opposition exactly how to sink our plans because we talk too much. Is that in here? Yes, it is. Mm. 130 years, and they've been few and difficult, fewer than the years of my ancestors. Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and left his presence. Joseph found a place for his father and brothers and gave them property in the land of Egypt, in the best region of the country, in the land of Ramses, who was a Pharaoh also, as Pharaoh had ordered. Now, here we see Pharaoh, who we all think, is all the time, the bad guy. But, the scriptures even say, hey, if the king is good, the people doing well. But if he kind of jacked up, man, the people suffer. is still the same today. If the person calling the shots, or the person that we think calling the shots, because they're really not calling the shots, it's a community effort, and we're systematically we got some tough days ahead, just like they do, but just like they made it through, we'll make it through too. I don't want people, Barry, I would come, but Barry, golly, all he always talking about save your money, can't spend nothing. Don't do this, don't do that. But I'm not. I wouldn't listen. I got my hands full running my own household. I'm just sharing because I just want us to be informed. That's where I'm coming from. That's where I'm coming from. And that's what Joseph is doing. And I tell you, if you've ever come to somebody's rescue in a time of real trouble, even if you couldn't bring them all the way out, just seeing you come on the scene, it infuses them with, okay, I can get through this. I can get through this. I mean, see, and when you got real people in your corner, you'd be surprised what you can face. You'd be surprised what you can face. And not only face, and win. But it's equally debilitating if you feel like you're on an island by yourself. Or you feel like you're in a land where a whole lot of crabbing going on. That's tough. That's tough. That's tough, man. And Joseph spent some days, think about in the prison. Think about even, I go back to, as soon as he started doing good, Potiphar's wife. I know Benita said, he would pick a woman to have something disparaging to say. But it wasn't just Potiphar's wife. See, that kind of stuff was prevalent even back then. See, that's a concept. See, a lot of times we go Potiphar's wife. Wasn't just her doing that kind of stuff. And it wasn't just women doing that kind of stuff. There's some legislation that got passed, and I forgot the name of it, but basically it's it's been a law signed, and I believe it's going to start in, I don't know if I'm not going to say the state, but it's a big state. It's on they call it the left coast. But now it's a cross between polygamy and, I mean, folks, it's just getting crazy, and now they got civil rights. And I told you before, next thing you know, a group of people going to be saying, if I want to marry a giraffe, ain't nothing nobody can say about it. And how low can we go? Oh, my gosh. Mm, mm, mm. Mm, 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 mm. Joseph provided food for his father, his brothers, and all his father's household, taking full care of even the youngest. You know, all of us, I think about Brenda. She had the challenge and opportunity to take care of her mother. She moved her mother in her house, and I'm not getting into all of that, but most of you all know anyway. But uh, I was, I was obviously, I think what a wonderful thing. And I was like, I would have liked that opportunity. I don't know, Donna, if you remember when your mother started not feeling well. And I pulled you to the side and I said to you, listen, man, I don't care if all you doing is sitting at her feet while she sleep. Take all the time you need with her. See, because I'll be honest again, I'm being transparent. I was kind of upset because the time I spent down here, I wanted to be at my mother's feet. But see, they the parents. I'm the kid. And it's going to always be that way. Even where my father was concerned, I really wish, now what he was doing, he loved. I know that. He loved that. But I really wish he had played more golf. Oh man. I even told him one time, I said, take y'all out there with you. He out there, he can probably shoot better than you. But saints, yes, we're to enjoy our stay here. Every day doesn't have to be a battle, a struggle, or whatever. And sometimes, let me listen. If your family want to do something for you, let them. Let them. Let them do it while they can, because the situation may change. Some of you all been here long enough. Remember, at one time, pastor wouldn't even let you do anything for him. And I'm like, man, listen. Each one of you know. Each one of you have a pretty good idea, and I'm not asking you to name names. That's between you and the one that made you. All of us have somebody breathing that if they could would move heaven and earth for you. To whatever abilities they've been given, or whatever contacts or whatever they got, they'll do it for you. But I'm going to ask you something. How many people are you willing to do the same for? See, because reciprocity is sorely missing a lot of times. And when there's no reciprocity, and I'm not talking about 50-50 either. I'm not talking about that. It's supposed to be like one of those boats where it rows, paddling on both sides. Yeah. Yeah. See, sometimes it's not always going to be equal. See, we got that. He's blessed you with somebody that feel that way about you. And they may not be in your family. They may. They may not. Mm. from the oldest to the youngest. And then it says, listen, there was no food anywhere, for the famine was very severe, so that both Egypt and Canaan grew weak from hunger. I see, Reg, ain't but 7 minutes, and I'm not going to run over. Joseph, listen to this now, and I particularly want those of you, and I do say this with all transparency, because you have such a good heart, we need an extra dose of wisdom. Because a lot of us are led mostly by our emotions, and we end up acting too quick sometimes. Yes, we're to help people, and I'm the same person. I'm the same person. Say, hey man, get yourself together, because you're gonna have to help people. But they also have to be willing to help themselves. And the system that we live in has trained people that, no, if I need help, all I got to do is say I need help, and some kind of help is coming. And I ain't filling out no forms. I ain't standing in line, you know. You got to make it as convenient for me. We're spoiled. We're entitled. I agree with you, but you said it. Remember Pastor used to say that all the time. No, you my man. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Listen to this. Joseph collected all the money there was in Egypt and Canaan in exchange for the grain they bought, and put the money in Pharaoh's treasury. Okay, what are we seeing here? Because see, most of us as church people, we just say, well, why didn't he just give all the money out? See, because some people think, oh, you got problems? Come to my church. They'll pay. I'm like, listen, and I'm not going to call no names, but I have had to pull some people to the side, and I try to explain to them. I said, listen, it's not that, and I was speaking for myself at that time. I said, it's not that I don't care about those people. I said, but my main concern is you all. So, folks, I know Pastor always say the thing he didn't care for so much about a lot of churches was they were a bless me club. But I'm going to tell you, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because where there's God's kind of love, and where there's God's kind of trust, and where there's God's kind of maturity, it's all right to have one another's back. But, I mean, if your parents turn around and gave each one of you $100 bill, you can run out in the neighborhood and tell all the kids, come on to my house. My parents giving out a $100 bill. So if you wouldn't do that, why do you do that with your church? Because see, when we get tricked, particularly when we think we evangelize, listen, you gonna give me some money? Mm-hmm. And all I gotta do is sit till you finish preaching? Mm-hmm. Okay. And sometimes we don't see people no more. Now again, I'm not saying that it's bad to give. I'm not saying that. But a lot of churches get tricked into that. And Donnie, you said something some years ago that was key, and I didn't think about that. See, sometimes in our haste to want to do good, we bring these people in and we'll usually put them up front. And what we're doing is we're putting them on blast. If you really want to help somebody, we don't call channel 8, 6, and 12. Yes, I'm about to give this person my jacket. You don't want to be that kind of giver. See, but that's the way the system teaches. Yeah, I'll give you $1,000, but call for those that's got $1,000 so I can stand up and they can see me. And then the prosperity guys was like, how many folks you got in your congregation that can give 1,000? I'll be there next week. See, folks, all of this is in there. Well, Barry, I didn't read it. I did. I'm telling you, this thing is so pregnant with situations. I see it, Reg. Is it this? I'm going to close up because I don't have but 2 minutes for today, and we'll go on further. But the point I wanted to make was Joseph didn't collect all of the money for the livestock for himself and then turn around and redisperse it. Some of us, from a Christian standpoint, say, well, that's what he should have done. No, no, no. He did that, and he put it all in Pharaoh's treasury. And we're going to go a little further, because sometimes in our giving, there's one more step we might need to do before we give. I'm not telling you not to give, but I'm telling you 1 or 2 more steps we need to run through in our head and our heart before we start just dispensing. God bless you. Pastor Hood, will you come on up?